Have you ever seen someone so confident that they didn't realize they were already in trouble? No one in that gym knew what they were about to witness. Not the trainers calling out combinations. Not the fighters skipping rope in the corner. Not even the man who walked in with confidence written all over his face. All they saw was a black belt stepping through the doors, shoulders back, chin high, eyes sharp. He moved like someone who was used to being respected, used to being feared, used to being the smartest fighter in the room. Across the gym, Manny Pacquiao was warming up, relaxed, smiling, light on his feet. Just another day. Just another session. But the black belt didn't see a legend. He saw an opportunity. He watched Manny's footwork. He studied his movement. He whispered something to his friend and smirked. To him, this wasn't about learning. This wasn't about respect. This was about proving something. He believed he had the edge. He believed he could outthink him, outmaneuver him, outsmart him. And in his mind, he had already won. Around them, the gym continued like normal. Pads popped, bags swung. Sweat hit the floor. Nobody noticed the tension quietly forming. Because the most dangerous moments never announce themselves. They arrive quietly, wrapped in confidence. The black belt adjusted his belt, took a deep breath, and started walking toward Manny. Each step was deliberate. Each step carried intention. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't hesitant. He was certain. Certain that speed could be predicted. Certain that experience could be tricked. Certain that he was about to expose something the world didn't see. Manny looked up briefly. Just a glance. Not defensive. Not challenged. Just aware. And that look, that calm, effortless awareness, would later make a lot more sense, because in a few moments, the black belt would realize something that hits harder than any punch. You can't outsmart what you don't understand. You can't trick what has already seen everything. And you can't play games with a man who built his life on discipline. He thought he was walking toward a test. In reality, he was walking into a lesson. Have you ever seen someone so confident that they didn't realize they were already in trouble? The gym felt alive in the way only a real fight gym ever does. Not loud, but busy. Not chaotic, but intense. The sound of gloves hitting pads echoed through the space like a steady rhythm. Shoes squeaked against the mat, ropes slapped the floor. A heavy bag creaked as someone worked combinations with quiet focus. This wasn't a place for ego. This was a place for work. Manny Pacquiao stood in the center ring, bouncing lightly on his toes, moving like the floor belonged to him. Loose shoulders, relaxed face, calm breathing. There was no crowd around him. No spotlight. No show. Just a legend doing what he had done his entire life. A coach held pads in front of him, calling soft commands. Manny responded with smooth, controlled movements. Nothing flashy. Nothing forced. Every punch landed clean. Every step was balanced. Every motion had purpose. Around the ring, younger fighters watched with quiet respect. Some whispered to each other. Some pretended not to stare. Some tried to copy his footwork when they thought no one was looking. Because when you are in the same room as someone who has seen everything, you feel it. You don't need an introduction. You don't need a name. You just know. But the black belt didn't feel that. He stood near the entrance, arms crossed, scanning the gym like a judge. Not impressed, not intimidated. Just observant. He took in the fighters, the equipment, the atmosphere. He watched Manny move. And instead of respect, he felt curiosity. Instead of humility, he felt confidence. To him, Manny was just another striker. Fast, yes, skilled, sure, but predictable. He leaned toward his friend and said quietly, "Speed fades. Technique doesn't." His friend nodded, unsure. The black belt smiled. He believed in systems, in patterns, in reading opponents. He had spent years studying timing, angles, distance, years learning how to control chaos. And in his mind, boxing was limited. Simple, straight lines repeating motion. He believed he could see the gaps. What he didn't see was the depth. Manny finished a round and leaned on the ropes, breathing steady. Not tired, not rushed. Calm. A trainer handed him water. Manny thanked him and took a small sip, eyes still watching the room. He wasn't watching people. He was feeling energy. Because real fighters don't just see. They sense. The black belt took a step forward, then another slow, confident, unbothered. A few fighters noticed him moving. Their eyes followed, not because he looked dangerous, but because he looked intentional. And intention in a gym is never accidental. The black belt stopped near the ring and rested his arm on the ropes casually, like he belonged there, like he owned the space. He watched Manny closely now. The way he shifted weight, the way he balanced, the way he never wasted motion. He tilted his head slightly, analyzing. To him, this was a puzzle. And he loved puzzles. But what he didn't understand was simple. You don't analyze a storm. You experience it. The gym kept moving. People laughed. A coach corrected a stance. A fighter dropped for push-ups, normal, comfortable, safe. That's what made it dangerous. Because moments before impact always feel calm. The black belt whispered again, this time louder. Footwork is fast, but open. One of the nearby fighters looked at him, then looked at Manny, then back at him. No one said anything, but the silence spoke. Manny finished stretching and stepped out of the ring, towel around his neck. He nodded at a few fighters, smiled at a coach. Humble, simple, grounded. No signs of tension. No signs of ego, just presence. The black belt watched him approach. Up close. Manny didn't look intimidating. He looked friendly. That made the black belt even more confident. He thought, this will be easy. He thought, he won't see it coming. He thought, I'm about to show everyone something. And that's the thing about the normal world. It tricks people. It makes them careless. It makes them brave in the wrong ways. Because nothing in the room felt dangerous. Nothing felt serious. No one realized that a line was about to be crossed. No one realized that confidence was about to collide with reality. No one realized that the calm they were standing in was the calm before a lesson. And as the black belt took one final step closer, Manny lifted his eyes, and the room felt different. Ever been in a place that felt completely normal, right before everything changed? The shift was subtle at first, so subtle that most people didn't notice it. The gym was still loud, still busy, still alive with movement. But something in the air had changed. The black belt leaned closer to the ring, resting both arms on the ropes, now casual, comfortable. Too comfortable. He watched Manny walk toward the corner, towel over his shoulder, talking quietly with the coach. Then he smirked. Not a friendly smirk. Not a curious one. The kind that comes from feeling superior. He turned to his friend and said, just loud enough to carry. Fast hands, but no real depth. A nearby fighter paused. Mid-rap, another glanced over. Manny didn't react. The black belt took that as permission. He continued, voice a little louder now. Speed fades. Once you break rhythm, he's done. A few heads turned. The room didn't go silent, but it definitely got quieter. Manny placed his towel on the bench and rolled his shoulders. Calm, loose, focused. No response. The black belt stepped closer. Now he was right at the edge of the ring. He tilted his head, studying Manny openly. No shame, no hesitation. Boxers rely too much on patterns, he said. Easy to read, easy to trap. That one landed. You could feel it. A coach near the heavy bag stopped talking. A fighter on the jump rope slowed. Even the air felt heavier. Manny finally turned his head. Not sharply, not aggressively. Just enough. Their eyes met. The black belt held the look, challenging, testing. Manny's face showed nothing. No irritation, no offense. Just awareness. That calm confused the black belt. And confusion often turns into boldness. He laughed lightly and added, no disrespect, but real fighters don't dance. A couple of people winced. Known trainer shook his head slightly. Manny looked at him for a second longer this time. Still no reaction. No words. Just silence. And silence is dangerous to people who need attention. The black belt exhaled through his nose, annoyed now. He didn't like being ignored. So he raised his voice. "You ever try real pressure?" he asked. "Or you just rely on speed?" The gym froze. Not completely, but enough. Because now it wasn't commentary. It was challenge. Manny turned fully toward him. The room could feel it. This wasn't about ego. This wasn't about pride. This was about respect. And it had just been stepped on. The black belt saw Manny turn and thought, "Good. Now he's paying attention." He straightened his posture, squared his shoulders, prepared. Manny walked closer, slow, controlled, unrushed. The black belt expected words, expected tension, expected pushback. Instead, Manny smiled. Not mocking, not sarcastic, just calm. And that smile threw him off, because it wasn't weakness. It was confidence. The black belt hesitated for a fraction of a second, then said, "So, you want to test it?" The question hung there heavy, unnecessary, provocative. A coach cleared his throat. Someone shifted their feet. Manny didn't answer immediately. He looked around the gym. At the fighters, at the coaches, at the space. He understood something the black belt didn't. This wasn't a stage. This was a workplace. This was a place built on discipline. Manny stepped closer until they were only a few feet apart. The black belt tensed slightly. Not afraid. But alert. Manny spoke softly, so softly that only those nearby could hear. "Why?" One word. That's it. The black belt blinked. He hadn't expected that. He expected challenge. He expected defense, not a question. He shrugged. "Because I can." The answer was honest. And that honesty revealed everything. This wasn't about skill. This wasn't about curiosity. This was about ego. Manny studied him, not like an opponent. Like a teacher. The black belt didn't understand that. Look, it wasn't judgment. It was assessment. Manny nodded once, slow, thoughtful. The black belt mistook it for acceptance, for permission. He smiled again, this time wider. He thought he'd won something. Around them. The gym had gone quiet now, not because of fear, but because everyone felt the line being crossed. This wasn't friendly. This wasn't respectful. This was someone trying to prove himself. At the wrong time to the wrong person. Manny took a small step back. The black belt took a small step forward. And every experienced fighter in that room knew the same thing. This wasn't going to end the way he thought, because there is a difference between confidence and understanding. And the black belt had one, but not the other. Engagement, soft, natural. Have you ever watched someone push a situation and felt that moment when you knew they were going too far? The room was quiet now, not silent, but aware. The kind of quiet where every breath feels louder, where every movement feels noticed. Manny stood there, facing the black belt, hands relaxed at his sides. No guard, no tension in his shoulders, no sign of challenge. And yet, everyone could feel the weight in the space between them. The black belt shifted his stance slightly, not aggressive, not defensive, ready, Manny noticed. He always did. Years in the ring had taught him how to read things. People didn't even know they were showing. The angle of a foot, the rise of a chest, the tightening of a jaw. This man wasn't dangerous, but he was eager, and eagerness was often more reckless than skill. Manny's mind moved quickly, but calmly. He thought about the gym, the fighters watching, the young students learning. This was their space. Their environment and what they were learning right now mattered. He could shut this down immediately. He knew that. One movement, one step, it would be over. But that wasn't the lesson he wanted to teach. Because strength isn't about domination, it's about direction. And respect is more powerful than fear. The black belt mistook Manny's pause for hesitation. He straightened his posture again, lifting his chin slightly, waiting. Challenging. The air tightened. Manny finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "You train here?" The question caught the black belt off guard. He hesitated, then shook his head. Manny nodded slowly. You're welcome to, he said. But not like this. The black belt frowned. What do you mean? Manny held his gaze. You don't need to prove anything here. That was it. No lecture, no ego, no warning, just truth, and truth is uncomfortable to people driven by pride. The black belt felt it. He didn't like it. He crossed his arms, leaned back slightly. So you're saying you don't want to test it? He asked. There it was, the bait, the invitation, the ego play. Manny could feel it. And for a moment, he considered walking away, letting it go, ending it before it became something else. Because real confidence doesn't need a stage. But then he looked around again. At the young fighters watching, at the beginners tying their wraps, at the students absorbing everything, and he understood something. If he walked away, the wrong lesson would stay. That loudness wins. That disrespect is tolerated. That ego goes unchecked. And that wasn't true. Manny took a small breath. Not for himself, for them. He stepped closer. Not into the black belt's space, but close enough to be clear. Why do you want to do this? Manny asked. The black belt blinked. He wasn't expecting questions. He was expecting resistance. He shrugged. Because I think I can. Honest again. And again, revealing everything. Manny studied him, not judging, not mocking, understanding. He saw insecurity. He saw hunger. He saw something trying to prove itself. He had seen it 1,000 times. In himself, years ago. Manny nodded slowly. Then said, Skill isn't something you take. It's something you build. The black belt exhaled sharply through his nose. That's nice, he said, but you don't know what I can do. Manny smiled slightly, not amused, not impressed, just calm. That's okay, he replied. I do. That sentence landed harder than any insult. The black belt stiffened. What's that supposed to mean? Manny didn't answer. He simply turned his body slightly toward the ring. Not an invitation. Not a challenge. A direction. The black belt followed his movement. Then looked back at Manny. You're serious? He asked. Manny nodded once low. Certain, the gym held its breath. A coach near the wall straightened up. A fighter leaned forward. A student stopped tying his gloves. This wasn't a fight, but it was about to be something. The black belt felt a rush of excitement. Finally, he rolled his shoulders and smiled again. This won't take long, he said. Manny didn't respond. He just walked toward the ring. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Natural. The black belt followed. Every step felt heavier now. The space between them closed. The ring ropes creaked as Manny stepped through. The black belt climbed in after him. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in the room. In the black belt, for the first time, he felt uncertainty, not fear, but doubt. Manny turned to face him. Hands still low, face still calm, no guard, no tension, just presence. And suddenly, the black belt realized something he hadn't before. This man wasn't avoiding the challenge. He was controlling it. And control was far more dangerous than aggression. The gym was silent now. Every eye locked in, and the black belt understood, too late, that he wasn't about to test Manny Pacquiao. He was about to be taught. Have you ever seen someone so confident that they didn't realize they were being guided into a lesson? The ropes creaked softly as the black belt stepped fully into the ring. The sound felt louder than it should have been. Like a signal, like a door closing. Manny stood a few steps away, relaxed, arms loose, posture natural. No guard raised, no stance exaggerated. Just balanced. The black belt bounced lightly on his feet, testing the canvas left, right loose, confident. He rolled his shoulders and exhaled, trying to stay casual. But the gym was too quiet. That kind of quiet gets into your head. Every eye was on them. Every breath felt watched. The black belt tried to ignore it. He circled Manny slowly, eyes locked, looking for reactions, looking for tells. He expected tension. He expected readiness. He got nothing. Manny simply turned with him, maintaining distance, never crossing his feet, never rushing. Always centered. That alone made the black belt uneasy, so he did what ego always does. He moved first. A quick, not an attack. A test. Manny didn't flinch. The black belt smiled. He took another step, a little closer this time, raised his hand slightly. "Relax," he said, half joking. "I'm just seeing what you do." Manny nodded once. No words, just acknowledgement. The black belt feinted with his shoulder, then pulled back. Again, nothing. No reaction. No bite. That silence started to feel heavy. He changed angles, stepped to the side, tried to cut Manny off. Manny shifted with him, effortlessly, like he had already moved before the black belt decided to. That's when the black belt frowned. He wasn't used to that. He was used to people reacting. He was used to controlling. He tried again, stepping in faster this time, closing the space. Manny adjusted, minimal movement. Maximum effect. The black belt felt it. That subtle denial of control, and that's when impatience crept in. He threw a light tap toward Manny's guard. Not to hit, to provoke. Manny leaned just enough to let it pass. No wasted motion, no panic. The black belt pulled his hand back, surprised. He hadn't expected that. He expected contact. He expected reaction. Instead, he felt like he had just reached into empty air. He laughed lightly, trying to hide the irritation. Fast. The black belt bounced again, increasing his movement now, circling wider, faster. He started throwing more feints, more motion, trying to create chaos, trying to confuse, trying to outsmart. But Manny stayed exactly where he needed to be. Not chasing, not retreating. Just there, and that was the problem, because chaos only works when the other person panics. Manny wasn't panicking. He was watching. The black belt stepped in again, quicker now, reaching with his lead hand. Manny shifted his weight and let it slide past. The black belt overstepped slightly. Just a fraction, but Manny noticed. He always did. The black belt corrected quickly and backed out. His heart was beating a little faster now, not from effort, from frustration. He didn't like not being in control. He didn't like not being seen. He tried to force the moment. He moved in harder this time, stepping inside Manny's space, too close. Too eager. Manny didn't move back. He held his ground. And suddenly, the black belt felt it. That invisible wall, that presence, that calm pressure. It wasn't threatening, it was dominant. The black belt hesitated. Just for a second, and that second cost him. Manny shifted his angle slightly, placing himself just off center. The black belt realized too late that he had been guided. He tried to adjust, but Manny was already there, not in front of him, beside him. The black belt froze. Confused, he hadn't felt anything. No force, no push, just position. He pulled back quickly, creating space, eyes wide now. The gym stayed silent. You could feel the shift. The black belt no longer looked playful. He looked alert, focused, serious. Manny remained calm, unchanged. That contrast was unsettling. The black belt reset his stance, jaw tight, eyes narrowed. He was done playing. He was done testing. He wanted control back. He stepped in again, faster, more aggressive in intent, trying to close distance. Manny didn't retreat. He pivoted. Clean, sharp, minimal. And suddenly, the black belt was off. Balance, not falling, not stumbling, just misaligned. He caught himself quickly, but the damage was done. He had lost position, and everyone in that gym saw it. A few fighters exchanged looks. A coach raised his eyebrows. The black belt felt heat rise in his face. Embarrassment, not defeat, but exposure. He took a breath, trying to steady himself. Manny stood there, eyes calm, breathing slow, no sweat, no tension, just control. And in that moment, the black belt realized something that shook him. He wasn't leading this exchange. He was following it. Every move he made was being allowed, and that terrified him, because he had come to outsmart, to dominate. to prove. But now, he was reacting. And Manny Pacquiao was letting him. The gym felt different, heavier, charged. And every experienced fighter in that room knew the same thing. The escalation had already happened. The lesson was already in motion. And the black belt was no longer in control of it. Engagement, soft, natural. Have you ever seen someone try to take control and slowly realize they never had it? The gym was silent. Not the usual busy hum of training. Not the clatter of gloves or the thump of bags. This silence was deliberate, heavy, tense. Every fighter, every coach, every student was frozen. Watching the black belt's chest heaved lightly, he had expected chaos to work in his favor. He had expected speed, skill, and clever tricks to create an opening. But none of it mattered. Manny stood still, not moving fast, not striking or showing aggression. Just there, balanced, present. And in that presence, the black belt felt exposed. He moved first, a jab, light, a feint, testing again. Manny shifted his weight, subtly, just enough to redirect the motion. The jab missed its target by inches. A tiny misstep, a subtle correction. But it was enough. The black belt froze. Confused. Frustrated. He had expected reaction. Not this. Control. He tried again. A feint to the left, a step forward. Manny's body adjusted, smooth, effortless, precise. No wasted energy. No panic. Just control. The black belt's confidence faltered. He could feel it. The plan he had walked in with, outsmarting Manny, was unraveling. He tried to accelerate. A series of quick steps. A combination of movements he had perfected over years of practice. Fast, calculated, predictable. Everything he thought would confuse Manny fell flat. Manny didn't move with rage. He didn't strike with aggression. He simply adjusted, step, shift, redirect. Each small action carried authority. Invisible, almost imperceptible, but undeniable. The black belt stumbled slightly, not from force, but from awareness. He realized he had been led, guided into positions he hadn't anticipated, and every move felt like it was being countered. Before he even decided it, this was mastery. Not loud, not flashy, just precise, silent power. He tried one last time, stepping in aggressively, hands ready. Manny waited. Then in a motion so smooth it almost seemed casual, Manny extended his hand lightly, just a touch on the black belt's shoulder. Not hard, not threatening, just presence. The black belt staggered back, not injured, not hit, just off. Balance. He blinked. Confused, the entire gym seemed to exhale at once. The tension shattered. The black belt realized, for the first time, that control does not come from aggression. It comes from calm, from awareness, from precision. Manny didn't chase him. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. He simply stood there, centered, breathing steady. The black belt's pride burned hot, but the lesson was undeniable. He had walked in thinking he could outsmart a legend. He had thought speed, technique, and cleverness were enough. But he had underestimated something far more powerful: discipline, experience, and quiet authority. Every fighter in the room had witnessed it. Not a fight, not chaos, not a spectacle, but a demonstration of what real mastery looks like. The black belt lowered his hand slowly. He took a deep breath. His eyes met Manny's. No words were spoken. No apology was needed. The acknowledgement was in the stillness, in the understanding. The gym slowly returned to life. Coaches whispered. Fighters exhaled. Students looked at each other, wide-eyed. And in that moment, one truth became clear. You don't have to strike to demonstrate strength. You don't have to win a battle to prove power. All you need is control. Manny's calm had been his weapon. His awareness had been his defense. His precision had been his authority. The black belt nodded slightly, a small sign of respect. It wasn't pride. It wasn't submission. It was recognition. Recognition of mastery, recognition of a force he could not match, Not through strength, speed, or technique. Only through experience. Only through discipline. The lesson landed silently, like a weight settling in the air. And every witness in that gym knew it would stay with them forever. This wasn't about humiliation. It wasn't about ego. It was about authority, measured and controlled. And the black belt had just been shown what it means to face someone who had mastered themselves. Engagement. Soft, natural. Have you ever seen someone stop chaos without raising a hand? Have you ever realized true power isn't in fighting, but in knowing you don't need to? The gym exhaled slowly, like it had just witnessed something impossible. The black belt stood in the ring, chest rising and falling, hands lowered. No more confidence, no more smirk. Just a flicker of understanding. He had walked in thinking he could control the room, thinking he could outsmart a legend, thinking speed, skill, and cleverness were enough. He had been wrong. Manny Pacquiao didn't chase him. He didn't yell. He didn't strike. He simply stood there. Balanced, aware, in control, and that quiet authority had done what all aggression could not. The black belt's shoulders dropped. His jaw loosened. He gave a small, respectful nod. It wasn't a surrender. It wasn't a defeat. It was acknowledgement. He had learned the hardest lesson a fighter can learn. Control beats chaos. Awareness beats cleverness. Discipline beats ego. Around the gym, the atmosphere shifted. Trainers whispered among themselves. Fighters exchanged glances. Students stopped tying their gloves and stared, wide-eyed. No one had seen a knockout. No one had seen a blow land. Yet everyone felt the impact. It was heavier than a punch, more powerful than a strike, more unforgettable than any fight. The black belt stepped back, rubbing the back of his neck. He glanced at Manny and asked quietly, "Teach me." Manny smiled, not wide, not boastful, just calm, understanding. "Step by step," he said. "Discipline first, respect always. Mastery comes later." And in that moment, everyone watching realized something. Power doesn't need to announce itself. Skill doesn't need to perform. Authority doesn't need to intimidate. All it needs is awareness. The black belt nodded again. This time, not smug, not confident, humbled, ready, open to learn. Manny turned back to the young fighters around the ring. He walked slowly, deliberately, teaching through action more than words. Every movement precise. Every stance balanced. It was more than training. It was demonstration. A lesson in life as much as in martial arts. The gym slowly returned to normal activity. Pads thumped. Bags swung. Ropes slapped the floor. But the energy was different. Heavier, charged, respectful. People didn't talk about the moves. They didn't share the techniques. They shared the lesson. The lesson was simple but powerful. The strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. It isn't the fastest. It isn't the cleverest. It's the one who stands firm, calm, and aware, and protects what matters without losing control. The black belt left the ring slowly. He didn't speak. He didn't brag. He didn't protest. He had learned something that money, medals, or trophies could never teach. Respect is earned silently. Power is shown calmly. True mastery never needs validation. By the next morning, clips of the confrontation had spread everywhere. People didn't share it for excitement. They shared it for the lesson, for the calm authority that had halted chaos, for the reminder that ego and aggression are fleeting. In comments, viewers wrote, "Wow, the way he handled that. Mind-blowing. This isn't a fight. This is a masterclass in discipline. Real strength isn't about fighting. It's about control." Manny didn't need to prove anything. The black belt didn't need to boast. The gym had witnessed something rare. A moment where power wasn't loud. A moment where authority didn't shout. A moment where respect replaced fear. And that moment would stay with everyone who saw it forever. Manny finally walked out of the ring, nodded to the black belt, and said softly, "Remember this. Skill without respect is useless. Control without humility is dangerous. And mastery is quiet." The black belt didn't argue. He only nodded, and in that nod was the understanding of a lifetime. Outside the gym, the world would call it a near confrontation. Inside the gym, It was something far more valuable, a lesson in discipline, a demonstration of authority, a reminder of what true mastery looks like. And everyone watching, students, fighters, trainers, understood one universal truth. You don't need to win a fight to be powerful. You don't need to strike to command respect. Sometimes, the most impressive victory is the one that never happens. Believe real strength comes from discipline and control. Type respect in the comments. Would you have had the courage to stand calm in that moment? Or would ego have taken over?